Hello friends. A time when Earth had become just a forgotten memory. Now life existed only on distant planets, where humans had made their new homes, new colonies. Just like earlier people used to travel by bus, train, or airplane. Now in the same way, everyday people would set out from one planet to another, in search of a new life, new work, and new purpose. On such a long journey was the Hunter Gratner, a transport ship steadily moving towards its destination deep in space. In this ship were about 40 passengers, who were kept inside cryosleep pods. Cryosleep pod, a place where the human brain shuts down for some time. No hunger, no aging. Humans could remain in deep sleep for months. But among those sleeping humans was also a beast, whom this sleep could never even touch. Riddick, a bloodthirsty monster whose name made even law and order tremble. He was being captured, to the most dangerous prison on a far-off planet. Even inside the pod he was completely bound in chains. Blindfolded, but his mind fully awake. Where the consciousness of the rest was sleeping, he was feeling everything. He knew there were 40 people on this ship. Some laborers, some miners, a religious leader from an Arab nation, and a police officer, Mr. Johns, who had caught Riddick. Riddick's terror was such that this 22-week journey was planned along a route with no stops in between, so that Riddick couldn't escape. Only 2 weeks had passed in the journey, when suddenly something happened that broke everyone's sleep forever. The ship collided with a meteoroid cluster. Those small rocks drifting in space began raining down on the ship like bullets, piercing holes in the ship. They went straight through the captain's body. The captain died right there in his sleep. But just in time, the system automatically woke all crew members. Pilot Fry and Navigation Officer Owens took control. When they came into the control room, they saw the ship had turned into a ball of fire and was rushing at full speed toward an unknown planet. Fry tried till the last moment to control the ship, and somehow managed to slow its fall, but couldn't avoid the crash. The ship hit the ground badly and crashed. In this accident most passengers died, including Navigation Officer Owens. Only a few people survived. Pilot Fry, the religious leader Imam and his 3 sons, a proud antique dealer Paris, a small boy Jack who had secretly boarded the ship, 2 colonists Zeke and Shotza, police officer Johns, and finally the beast Riddick, who not only survived the crash, but also escaped from John's custody, vanishing somewhere on that unknown planet. This planet was strange. The air was breathable, but all around there was only a scorching desert. No greenery, no water, only a blazing sun and burning heat. At first the survivors were thankful just to be alive. They thanked Fry. But Fry knew their real trouble was about to begin, because the ship was completely destroyed, and on this barren world, there was no trace of water or food. They immediately started checking what they still had, and how long they could survive. After inspection it was found only a few bottles of alcohol were left. Their hope began to fade. Just then Imam arrived. In a voice full of faith he said, "Trust in God. Even in the desert, water can be found, if the eyes are true and the search is sincere." His words seemed to hold everyone's spirits for a while. Now everyone was ready to search for water. But water wasn't the only problem. Another danger was roaming free under the open sky. Riddick. Johns warned everyone that Riddick would do anything to survive, and to escape from here. He might try to steal their resources. Anyone who stood in his way, he wouldn't think twice before killing them. This warning filled everyone with fear. After that they all stepped outside. There they saw an astonishing sight. 3 suns in the sky, one of them a bright blue. Seeing this, Imam smiled and said, "This is a sign from God. Water is also blue. That means we'll find water in that direction." Fry and Johns joined Imam and his sons, walking toward that direction. Johns stayed alert because moments earlier, he had found Riddick's broken handcuffs lying that way. A little further ahead, through his binoculars, John spotted something. Behind a hill, there were dry trees in sight. If there are trees, there must be water, they thought, holding on to hope. As they approached the hill, a horrifying sight made their hair stand on end. Those weren't trees. They were the bones of a gigantic creature, standing in shapes resembling trees. All around the area, such monstrous skeletons were scattered. Perhaps this colossal species had once thrived here. Everything was so quiet and still that it seemed as if some ancient catastrophe had swallowed their existence in a single blow. They all passed through that desolate, skeleton-filled area and walked through a narrow canyon. What they saw ahead stunned everyone. There was a settlement built by humans. It looked like there might have once been a research lab here. But now, every door was open, and every wall was covered in dust. It seemed as though the place had been abandoned years ago. A source of water was also present there, and upon seeing it, Imam thanked God. Meanwhile, Fry entered a closed room in this abandoned settlement. The room was completely dark, and thick dust had settled on the walls. In the middle stood an old player model, from which it could be determined that the place, which showed the positions of the suns and planets in the world at different times. There was no electricity in the room. Fry opened the window, and as soon as the sunlight entered, the player model started moving on its own. The model displayed 3 suns and 3 planets among them. The middle planet was the very place where their spaceship had crashed. Because the suns were all around, it never got dark here. Therefore, there was no need for lights in the rooms. Fry then moved to the back of the room. At that moment, a gleam caught her eye. There stood a small spaceship. Old but perhaps still capable of flying. Seeing it, Fry screamed with joy. Meanwhile, near the crashed spaceship, Zik was burying the bodies of the dead. Nearby was a pile resembling termite mounds. Seemed like a termite nest. Right there Zik was digging a pit. He had no idea that Riddick was lurking somewhere like a shadow. At that moment, Zik noticed a tunnel beneath the soil. He lit a torch and peered inside. The tunnel was deep, engulfed in darkness. He had just moved a little further when suddenly something came out from inside and dragged Zik. Zik's agonized screams echoed. He started firing wildly. Hearing the noise, Shaja ran over, but by then it was too late. The edge of the pit was smeared with blood, and Zik had vanished. Nearby, in a corner, Riddick sat silently holding a knife, perfectly calm as if nothing had happened. Seeing Shaja, he bolted away at full speed. But just a little ahead, Jones, hiding behind a mound, tripped him, causing him to fall. Jones pounced on Riddick, but when Riddick counterattacked, Jones removed his goggles. Riddick became almost blind. In the sunlight, he could barely see anything. Taking advantage of this, Jones struck Riddick again, knocking him unconscious and taking him captive onto the ship. A little later, Fry approached him angrily and asked, "What did you do with Zik? Did you kill him? Where is his body?" But Riddick remained completely silent. Fry, furious, said, "If you don't speak, we'll leave you here to die." Saying this, she turned to leave. Then Riddick spoke. "Didn't you hear that growl?" Fry was startled and asked, "What growl?" Riddick said, "You all are afraid of me, aren't you? You think I'm dangerous. Normally I'd take that as a compliment. But not here, because the real danger isn't me. It's something else, something far more dangerous than I am." Riddick was a terrifying puzzle. Fry stepped closer to peer into his eyes. At that moment Fry saw a truth in Riddick's eyes. At that moment, the others caught a glimpse of the terrifying creatures as well. Their own spines chilled. Now they understood that the danger before them was far more terrifying than Riddick himself. Jones freed Riddick from his restraints, but with the condition that he would help them escape this planet. Riddick agreed, but in return he demanded his freedom. A deal was made, and all of them returned once again to the abandoned human settlement where Fry had found the old ship. Fry and Shaja began repairing the old ship. Fry discovered that its batteries were dead. To restart it, they needed 4 batteries, which they could retrieve from their crashed ship. That meant they could finally leave safely. They all sat down, celebrating this victory with some alcohol. During this time they discussed what might have happened to the people who had come here for research. Had they returned? But all their essential supplies remained here. How could they leave them behind when their ship was also here? Jones shared his opinion. Obviously, their ship wasn't useful to them. It was probably a disposable ship. Anyway, that ship is designed for only 2 people, so they must have left it. Then Riddick said, "Don't you get it yet? Those people never left this place. That's what happened to them. They've all fallen prey to those alien creatures." Everyone's faces turned grim because that was exactly what they had feared. Meanwhile, Imam's son, Ali, wandered into the coring room, the room once used to inspect the ground for mining. The dark room was locked from inside. But Ali sneaked in through a broken wall, unaware that the room had become the lair of those alien creatures. They were hanging from the dark corners of the ceiling like bats. Accidentally, Ali switched the power on, opening the top window and letting in bright light. As the light hit them, the alien creatures squirmed and swarmed toward Ali, flying rapidly. Ali's screams echoed throughout the station. Imam and the others ran without delay, breaking the door to enter the coring room. At that moment, the swarm of those ferocious flying creatures also attacked them. But as soon as the door opened, the light flooded in, and in fear, the shadowy creatures retreated into the darkness of the room. Yet the real horror was now revealed. Ali's body lay on the ground, brutally torn apart. The hungry creatures had devoured every piece of his body, leaving only his skeleton. Imam's heart ached. Meanwhile, the others were busy investigating the well. Jones threw a glowing stick into it, revealing a horrifying sight. The well was filled with human skeletons, and several tunnels branched out from it. The flying creatures had gone into those tunnels. Then Riddick said, "I told you no one ever returned alive from here. The doors of this coring room are the strongest. That's why everyone came to hide inside this well, to escape these creatures." But little did they know, the creatures' home is beneath the ground. Now everyone was terrified. They decided to leave the planet as quickly as possible. She wondered, if it's never night here, why would the people on this planet hide in the well to escape these creatures? Then Fry found an old soil sample in the coring room, which had a date on it, exactly 22 years old. And it was the same month that was currently underway. At that moment, Fry remembered something. She immediately ran to the room where she had first found the planet's model. Fry started turning the year-adjusting dial. As she flipped through the years, the positions of the planets and suns changed, and when the year stopped at 22, a terrifying pattern of the planets appeared. Fry saw that every 22 years, all 3 planets and 3 suns aligned in a straight line, and the middle planet, the one where they were trapped, was plunged into complete darkness. Total eclipse. Another terrifying detail was that once aligned, the 3 planets would orbit together for some time. This meant the darkness could last not just hours, but days or even months, and during this darkness, the deadly nocturnal creatures would emerge, turning anything living in their path into piles of skeletons. Now the survivors were gripped with terror. They prayed only that the eclipse would not occur before they escaped. But their hopes were in vain. They saw a massive planet beginning to cover the sun. The eclipse was imminent. Without wasting a moment, they all got into a nearby solar-powered truck and rushed toward their crashed ship so they could carry the heavy batteries back and start the ship before darkness fell. Driving the truck at full speed, they finally reached the crashed ship. Without delay, they began loading the heavy batteries onto the truck. But their speed was no match for the approaching eclipse. In the sky, the monstrous planet slowly blocked the sun. As soon as the sunlight disappeared, their solar-powered truck shut down instantly. At that moment, a chilling sight appeared before their eyes. From the nearby caves, thousands of flying alien creatures emerged, hungry, frenzied, and screaming, shattering the silence of the barren planet. Trembling in fear, everyone ran at full speed toward a cargo cabin of the ship, which had crashed a little away from the main ship. Only the cabin's strong metal frame could now save them. Everyone quickly climbed inside. But Riddick and Shahja were left behind. The creatures flew toward them at high speed, but Riddick and Shahja jumped into a pit and stayed flat without making a sound. Meanwhile, Fry tried from a distance to signal Shahja not to move, but Shahja panicked. She got up, and as soon as she tried to run, the ferocious creatures swarmed her like fire, tearing her apart within moments. Smiling as he watched everything, Riddick stood up at the first opportunity, shook off his hands and legs, and calmly walked toward the cabin. By now, the last sliver of sunlight had disappeared behind the massive planet, plunging it completely into darkness. At that very moment, even bigger and more ferocious alien creatures broke through the mounds above the caves and went out hunting. This terrifying sight went unseen by anyone except Riddick, whose glowing eyes could see everything even in the dark. Everyone else huddled inside the cabin, trembling with fear. They noticed that the creatures were making strange clicking noises. They realized that while the creatures probably couldn't see, they had an ability to locate their prey through these clicks. Using the sound of the clicks, the aliens could determine what was in front of them. The creatures began clawing at the outer layer of the cabin with their sharp talons. Seeing this, everyone moved to the inner layer of the cabin. Inside the dark, empty room, they had an iron cutting torch and a battery-powered flashlight, which they used to scan the surroundings for any danger. At that moment, Riddick sensed something. He moved to a dark corner and froze, staring at an object. There, hidden in the dark corner above, was an alien creature that had already entered in search of prey, and they saw that even a little light burned the creature's body. They finally understood the alien's weakness. However, the lights they had wouldn't last long. Once the battery ran out, their chance of survival would vanish. Fry decided that they must reach the ship before the torches died. They would stick to their plan and quietly make their way on foot toward the abandoned settlement carrying the batteries. They began their preparations. For safety and light, they collected hand torches, iron cutting torches, glowing tubes, and even bottles of alcohol to use as improvised lamps if needed. Then, they quietly set off toward the settlement. Riddick led the way, seeing clearly even in the dark. Jones and Imam carried the heavy batteries behind him. A short distance ahead, Paris's iron cutting torch went out. Paris went to get another torch, but in his panic, he dropped it far away. Seeing this, the naive Jack took out his glowing tube. Jack went to pick up the torch. At that moment, a ferocious alien swooped down to attack him. But Imam grabbed Jack just in time, narrowly saving him. Looking around, they realized they were surrounded on all sides by the terrifying alien creatures. Until now, the light had kept them safe. Paris trembled in fear and, in panic, ran off in another direction. The glowing tube was still attached to him, but as he ran a short distance, its plug came off the battery, plunging Paris into darkness. Quickly, he lit a lighter and blew into a bottle of alcohol, creating a bright flash. What he saw next made his blood run cold. The swarm of aliens was surrounding him. As soon as his lighter went out, the aliens attacked, tearing his body apart piece by piece. The others, in the darkness, couldn't see Paris's gruesome death, but Riddick's glowing eyes observed everything. It was as if the horrific scene gave him some grim satisfaction. Meanwhile, after the glowing tube went out, Fry and the others set alcohol-filled bottles on fire to make makeshift lamps. They pressed on without stopping. Soon, however, they realized Riddick was not leading them toward the settlement but was looping them in circles. Annoyed, Jones asked, "Is this some kind of joke? Instead of taking us to the canyon, you've brought us back here." Riddick replied, "I know, but it was necessary. I was assessing the situation and I needed time. Death is lurking in the canyon. The alien's entire group is there, and this girl with us is bleeding. The scent of blood attracts those aliens." Fry exclaimed, "What are you talking about? I'm not bleeding." Riddick said, "I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about that girl," pointing toward Jack. In truth, Jack was a girl disguised as a boy to appear strong so others would treat her well. Until now, she had been unintentionally attracting the aliens. He attacked Jones directly. A struggle ensued, but in the end, Riddick wounded Jones and pushed him into the darkness. The scent of Jones's blood quickly drew the aliens, and they tore him apart. Now Riddick took command, dragging the heavy batteries alone, leading everyone through the canyon. Inside, the aliens were in chaos, starving, vicious, and even attacking each other. Riddick ran swiftly, caring for no one else. Their only source of light was the makeshift lamps made from bottles of alcohol. Suddenly, rain began, extinguishing the lamps. They hid behind a rock as the light dimmed, and a new horror struck. An alien swooped down like a shadow and grabbed Imam's son, Suleiman, by the neck with its tail, carrying him off. Imam was helpless, crying out in despair. Only Riddick, Fry, Imam, and Jack remained. Riddick climbed the hills, observing the path ahead. "It's not safe for you to go further. Death awaits. I'll go alone." "Wait here," he said. There was a nearby cave. Riddick sent the three inside and blocked the entrance with a rock, then moved forward with the batteries. Showing his cunning, Riddick found no real threat ahead, just the settlement. He quickly reached the ship and began preparing to leave alone. Meanwhile, Fry, Imam, and Jack waited, realizing soon that Riddick would not return. They were left relying on the faint light of their last lamp, which soon went out. Panic set in, but then they saw a glimmer of hope, tiny glowing insects inside the cave. Fry collected them in a bottle, creating a light source. She told Imam and Jack to stay put and went to Riddick, who was about to take flight. Fry pleaded with him to help save Imam and Jack, but Riddick said they were beyond saving. They would not survive. "You can come with me," he added, but Fry refused to let him leave. "This is your chance, Riddick. Reach out and prove you're not a monster but a good human," she urged. Riddick laughed. His humanity had been buried long ago in a prison cell. Fry attacked Riddick, but he overpowered her, ready to end it in an instant. Then he stopped. In Fry's eyes he saw despair, grief for someone lost. Meanwhile, Imam and Jack hid in the cave, also gathering glowing insects, their light faint. Outside, someone was moving the rocks of the cave with force. When the rock shifted, they saw Fry, and now Riddick, standing with her. Fry had awakened Riddick's humanity. Together, they rescued Imam and Jack and ran toward the ship. Riddick helped them climb the hills and move ahead. But as he reached the other side of the hill, an alien appeared in front of him. Without hesitation, Riddick mirrored its movements, blending into its view. Yet, as he tried to escape, multiple aliens surrounded him. Now Riddick's survival seemed impossible. Imam and Jack had reached the ship, but Fry was waiting for Riddick. In such a difficult moment, where even Imam could not gather the courage to save Riddick, Fry went alone to help him. She saw that Riddick was badly injured, but he had survived the clutches of those aliens. Fry started to carry him away. But then, from behind, an alien thrust its sharp tail into Fry's back and dragged her away. Riddick helplessly just watched. He felt regret that Fry had sacrificed herself to save him. But he regained his senses because Fry could not come back, and to repent, he had to save Imam and Jack. He returned to the ship and was about to start it and leave, when a thought stopped him. He turned off the ship and all the lights and waited. As soon as many aliens gathered behind the ship, Riddick started the engine and roasted those aliens, escaping from that planet. Riddick, who once had landed on that planet like a beast, was now returning like a human. Along with that dark world, he had also defeated the darkness within himself. And with this, the film ended here. Friends, I hope this journey of Riddick from darkness to light has filled you with excitement too. If you liked this journey, do give a like, and to not miss any upcoming video, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon. We will continue to bring you such powerful and heart-touching film stories.